Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much to CAPS for having me, and especially to AVM Gulani sir for the high praise and the opportunity. And I'd just like to reiterate that I'm happy to share the stage with such excellent experts. Um, so for my talk, I'll section it into three parts. First, I'll talk a little bit about what military AI is and what India has been doing in this space, how it has been developing its military AI architecture. Then we'll go on to discuss a little bit more about the ethical and responsible AI frameworks for military applications. And I'll conclude with an overview of the global conversations around ethical and responsible military AI and how India is responding to the same. So, in terms of what exactly military AI is now everywhere, and defense is far from the exception. The problem that exists is that there is no consolidated definition or characterization of what military AI is. Until very recently, military AI was sort of enmeshed around the concepts of cybersecurity and information operations. And it was mostly mentioned in debates around data security, cybersecurity, and to some degree mentions of information operations using big data, but not as a standalone concept of security, and especially not within the military. This has changed significantly in the past decade or so. And military AI is now understood in the context of lethal autonomous weapon systems or autonomous drones, and also recently back-end data processing, predictive analysis, and recommending systems for targeting and engagement, much like the ones that help you choose the next series to watch on Netflix. So as Group Captain Sehgal also mentioned, these systems have been observed in recent conflicts, such as the Gospel system, the Iron Dome, and sentry guns by Israel, and also autonomous drones like the Sacher Scout by Ukraine, which can target and engage with 64 different kinds of Russian military objectives autonomously without a human in the loop, even in communications denied environments. However, this range of applications of military AI is now expanding to also include data poisoning, deepfakes, misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation operations, and psychological operations through social media. And the lines between civilian and military AI are quickly blurring. So India, coming to what India is doing in this particular space, India has recently taken up military AI in earnest. So in 2018, it established a multi-stakeholder task force under the chairmanship of N. Chandrasekhan, the chairman of Tata Sons. And the task force submitted its report in June 2018, on the basis of which a Defense AI Council was set up under the MOD. And a Defense AI Project Agency, which is very similar to the DARPA in the US, was created under the DDP of the MOD. And this was followed by the establishment of an AI roadmap for each defense public sector undertaking, with about 70 defense-specific AI projects identified for development in the coming years. These particular projects were unveiled during the first ever AI in Defense Symposium last year, which was also organized by the MOD. And a catalog of their features, capabilities, applications, and advantages was released in the public domain through a DDP publication called AI Preparedness of India in Defense in 2022. So these 75 products that were unveiled include AI-based swarm and storm drones, cognitive radars, uncrewed vehicles, motion and anomaly detection systems, target identification systems, facial and gesture recognition technologies, instantaneous translators, and monitoring and predictive systems, amongst others. But within India, there's a little bit of a mixed approach model of defense AI, which lacks an apex body. So the major players in this particular domain are the central government and the MOD, along with PSUs and the services. And of course, the industry also comes in when it comes to the startups and, for example, the IDEX, Innovation for Defense Excellence and Academia. The Tri-Services have also established an AI subcommittee and joint working group. And as per their data management framework, the services have also formulated data policies and appointed data management officers. In terms of what each service is looking into separately, for the Army, it's mostly looking into employing AI-based surveillance systems, sensors to detect border intrusion and target classification, seeker monitoring and analysis systems, a self-contained system with facial recognition, surveillance monitoring and analysis systems, as well as tools to track vehicles, which is the Project Vlogger, intruders using intrusion detection systems, which is the Sarvatra Pehchan, human detection and facial recognition, rail-mounted robots, the Silent Sentry, and national language processing based wearable language translation devices, which can do simultaneous translations from Mandarin to English. In terms of the Navy, it's employing unmanned underwater vehicles. For example, the maritime version of the Orbiter 4, and also other systems which carry and operate two different payloads simultaneously. It's also experimenting with MUM-T approaches, which are manned unmanned teaming systems, and AI-equipped advanced combat management systems as well, which lay into the whole new unmanned autonomous boats for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions. In terms of the Air Force, there have been developments in the space of AI-based campaign planning and analysis systems, and an application that captures all of the electronic intelligence for creating comprehensive electronic order of battles. There's also imagery intelligence analysis tools for the identification of assets, an assessment of enemy targets and movements, and employing AI on the reconnaissance data. And also the Air Force is novel in experimenting around AR and VR for war gaming as well. So now that we have a sense of what India is doing and what military AI is, let's look a little bit more into what ethical and responsible military AI entails. With the increase in use cases and applications of AI around the world, there has also been sort of a global push for rallying around responsible innovation ecosystems. So within this, responsible AI is one part, and it is broadly understood as the practice of designing, development, and deploying AI to empower employees, businesses, and services, and impact society in a fair manner. But of course, this is a very, very broad definition, and given AI's dual use characteristics, it is a very loose definition as well. But what it does for the military is that it posits RAI as an umbrella term that usually encompasses considerations around ethical, fair, explainable, and trustworthy AI systems. RAI especially was brought out by researchers from Google, Microsoft, and IBM who have attempted to operationalize it under responsible AI licenses that they released in 2019 for general purpose AI systems. And of course, these have then been followed by many other sector-specific licenses from various organizations. So why is it important to consider responsible and ethical practices for military AI? This is a twofold, there's a twofold response to this question. The first is the application of RAI and ethical military AI between allies becomes important because policy alignment can improve interoperability in doctrines, procedures, legal frameworks, and technical implementation measures. But what about RAI deployment in a situation between adversaries? At this juncture, one might even ask why military AI, which is designed to be used in offensive combat operations and assist a country in inflicting harm upon its opponents, should have responsible AI considerations in the first place. This is because AI-based weapon systems like lethal autonomous weapons and other targeting and defense aids, which have not been screened for RAI considerations, carry tangible risks of exhibiting biased, error-prone, and unsuitable processing of information for the operational environment in which they are deployed. So systems without RAI and ethical AI considerations thus pose unintentional exclusive harms, not only towards adversaries, but also possibly for the entity employing them, which makes their use unnecessarily high risk despite their other benefits. So how is this responsible AI and ethical AI operationalized? In the absence of these particular measures, AI systems employed for surveillance, targeting, and engagement are especially vulnerable to inadvertent inaccuracies, which result from one of three things. First would be misrepresentative data sets. Second would be unsupervised algorithms behind the AI black box that exacerbate biased outputs. And third would be human developers, commanders, and operators who fail to employ the systems correctly and ethically due to a lack of training. So to fill these gaps, for the data gap, one must invest a lot more in representative data sets and make sure that they exist before developing the system in the first place. For algorithms, there should be investment in explainable AI systems, which sort of transparentize the black box and can help in fixing biased outputs at the developmental stage as well as at the deployment stage. And for humans, there should be adequate training, including ethical reviews for the entire life cycle of the system itself. Now that we have an understanding of what responsible and ethical AI is, let's look a little bit more on what global conversations are taking place around this. So the conventional weapons has a group of governmental experts meeting on lethal autonomous weapon systems, which has been convened since 2016. And the conversation around lethal autonomous weapons has been happening at the UN since 2014. So we're now completing a decade of these conversations. And this has remained the only forum to dedicatedly discuss regulations around military AI, where the concept of ethics has sort of remained an ever present but understated discussion point. But in 2023, the responsible AI in the military conversation sort of fired up a little bit. And the Netherlands and South Korea took the lead on spurring larger global conversations around this and concluded the first edition of a dialogue called the Responsible AI in the Military, which is the RE-AIM conference in February of this year. This is now slated to be an annual occurrence, and next year South Korea is going to be hosting it. So India was invited by the Netherlands for RE-AIM 2023, where 80 other governments were present as well. And about 60 of these countries agreed to a joint call of action to include RAI considerations in their military ecosystems and to push for advancing this agenda at relevant conferences and governance forums. India attended the conference, but was curiously one of the few countries who did not endorse this call, indicating that responsible AI in the military was not a priority for it yet, despite the MOD's mention of ensuring ethical AI in the military. And this might point to an overall trend of India not aligning its security policies with majoritarian alliances in favor of its own security considerations. This has also been the case in the case of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT, which was signed by a majority of the countries back when it was negotiated, and India is one of only 4 countries to have not signed it. However, at the same time, India has been very hands-on with responsible AI for civilian applications. And Niti Aayog actually released a 2-part report on this in 2021 on approaches towards an operationalization of RAI principles for deployment and use in civilian AI architectures. And the industry is now also sort of catching up and leading these conversations with NASSCOM, which is the tech industry body of the country, releasing an RAI toolkit and a hub last year to this end. How this space evolves in the next few years with generative AI remains to be seen, and contributions of huge tech hubs like India will be instrumental in this conversation. And I leave it at that, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.